But it's, again, it just tells the story of it's the evil and the ugliness of people's hearts these days is everywhere.
This is Franky Rose's Think Tank. Here's your host, Franky Rose.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Think Tank. So, looks like we're having some kind of global tech outage. By looks of things, it's literally a tech thing. I don't think it's anything we need to be nervous about at this point, but let's check this out. Let's see what they have to say here. Can you guys hear everything? Good morning, good morning. Good to see you guys. No, I don't think they've got their volume on yet. I think that's what's going on here. I don't think they've got their mic set up quite yet. So what do you think is going on in our bubble now, guys? What the hell? You can? Thank you, Dandy. Thank you. They've got a little bit of sound or something going on in the background. I thought, uh-oh. Oh, lordy, lordy. Audio is fine. Thank you, Dingo. Isn't that a lovely staircase? I agree. I agree. Straight to the outdoor. Here's a nice stairway to get you the hell out of the building. Thank you very much, Ruthie. Open my peepers and we're at it again. I don't know what's going on in Canada yet as far as this goes. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to do a little bit of digging because I'm not even quite sure when the hell this started. Let's see here, guys. Tech outage. Pretty quiet in that building. Come on now. Flights grounded. Offices hit. Internet users are having disruptions. Can you imagine what's happening on Wall Street? Banks offline. Media outlets offline. Cybersecurity from CrowdStrike said that the issue is believed to be behind the outage was not a security incident or a cyber attack. Microsoft confirms CrowdStrike update as they were responsible for the issue. Spokesperson from Microsoft, Frank X. Shaw, has confirmed that CrowdStrike update was responsible for bringing down a number of Windows systems globally. We are actively supporting customers to assist in their recovery. He said in an emailed statement earlier today. President Joe Biden has been briefed on the CrowdStrike outage, and his team has been in touch with CrowdStrike and impacted entities, according to the White House. Biden is getting continued updates throughout the day, and the administration is standing by to provide assistance if it's needed. Japan's Jetstar cancels most domestic flights. At the Narita International Airport near Tokyo, passengers of low-cost carrier Jetstar Japan formed long lines waiting for the airline's departure counter, where boarding had been processed manually due to system failures. I hope they're not flying around that airspace without any kind of guidance from their towers. I can't see it. Airlines said that they're sorry and are upset about the inconvenience, and they are doing their utmost to resolve and restore the system as soon as possible. Border crossings and healthcare affected in Canada. Disrupted hospitals and backed up border crossings. Porter Airlines said it's canceling its flights until about 12 p.m. Eastern due to outages. Air Canada, Canadians' largest airline, said there is no major impact to its operations. What? University Health Network, one of Canada's largest hospital networks, said some of its systems had been impacted and some patients may experience delays. Truly all over the place. Windsor Police reported long delays on both the Canadian-U.S. states border crossing at the Ambassador Bridge and the Detroit-Windsor Tunnel. No use getting upset, some passengers are saying. Wow. Okay, guys, we're waiting on you. Come on. Come on, City Hall. Okay, let's see what else we can find here. Yeah, exactly, Dingo. Exactly. Let's see what else we can find while we're waiting here. Microsoft outage. Hits airlines, banks, and businesses. Cyber outage could be largest in history. The global cyber outage that caused disruptions to airlines, business, and emergency services on Friday could be the largest IT outage in history. I don't think it's too early to call it. This will be the largest IT outage in history. Says Hunt. Troy Hunt is a cyber security expert. This is basically what we were worried about with Y2K, except it's actually happened this time. Critical areas affected. 911 services are down in several states in the U.S. Major U.S. airlines, including Delta, United, and American Airlines, have had flights grounded. The airlines in Europe and Asia are also seeing disruptions. Banks in Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Britain have been impacted, as have health services in Israel, Germany, and the UK. The outages appear to stem at least partly from a software update from Microsoft Windows operating system issued by cybersecurity confirm CrowdStrike fixed, deployed, and impacts remain. CrowdStrike CEO said that a fix has been deployed, and Microsoft said that underlying cause has been fixed, but that the outages are still affecting some services. Okay, then tell me how it's fixed. How is it fixed and broken at the same time? Yeah. Joe Biden's statement, what a malarkey. Okay, guys, here we go. Why am I getting no volume? Crank it up, friends.
Deliver for New Yorkers. New Yorkers need to know that their city government moved quickly to assess the incident and protect critical resources. Chief Technology Officer Matt Frazier even conducted a series of television and radio interviews throughout the morning to keep New Yorkers informed about the outage starting at 5:40 a.m. While we are continuing to monitor the situation, emergency operations and crucial services, including our 911 system, are working properly. To tell you more about the incident, we are joined this morning by Mayor Eric Adams, Chief of Staff Camille Joseph Warlick, Deputy Mayor for Public Safety Phil Banks, Deputy Mayor for Operations Mira Joshi, Deputy Mayor for Strategic Initiatives Anna Almanzar, New York City Chief Technology Officer Matt Frazier, New York City Fire Department Commissioner Laura Kavanaugh, New York City Health and Hospitals President and CEO Dr. Mitch Katz, New York City Department of Citywide Administrative Services Commissioner Louis Molina, New York City Department of Environmental Protection Commissioner Rit Agrawal, First Deputy Commissioner of New York City Emergency Management Christina Farrell, New York City Police Department Chief of Information Technology Ruben Beltran, New York City Department of Education Deputy Chancellor for Family and Community Engagement Melissa Aviles Ramos, MTA Authority Chair Jano Lieber, and Con Edison Director of Regional and Community Affairs Ruth Foshold. So without further delay, I'll turn it over to Mayor Adams.
Thanks so much, DM Levy. And I often recall, although this was not a cyber attack, I recall when I was briefed by the former mayor, he says one of the major concerns is dealing with any form of IT outage, including if it is a cyber attack. We need to be prepared. And with that in mind, Chief of Staff Camille Joseph has been hosting a series of drills. We just recently did one to deal with any type of IT outage or slash cyber attack. And so it was good to see how quickly the team coordinated. CTO Smalls, Frazier called me around little after midnight last night and gave me a preliminary briefing that what was taking place, and reached out to the other team members, and everything kicked in gear. And you see the results of that from not only the notifications he made this morning, but also the coming together of the team. The blueprint was already in place. All we had to do was to execute on it. And just want to thank all these city agencies, as well as our partners in other agencies like the MTA. And we're here to update New Yorkers on this global IT outage involving CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike is a cybersecurity software prevalent in computers across the globe. Their goal, as the Chief Technology Officer would explain, is to identify if there is a problem and to immediately take action. And early this morning, they sent out a software update that inadvertently took systems offline. They sent out a software update that inadvertently took systems offline. This was not a cyber attack that was hit or a cyber hit on our city infrastructure. Our city's IT and security teams, led by the Office of Technology and Innovation, have been working nonstop to troubleshoot problems and restore services. The CTO, Matt Frazier, has been directly in touch with CrowdStrike to get real-time updates and identify the fastest path to getting all systems up and running as quickly as possible. I just really want to emphasize this was not a cyber attack. This was an update that took systems offline. And this is why the preparation is so important that the Chief of Staff is in charge of doing, to make sure that we can immediately respond if there is an IT disruption of this magnitude, or if there is a cyber attack. We have to be prepared, and this is what the drills are for. There are no calls are being held or missed, and there is no backlog at the FDNY, and FDNY is reviewing to ensure this remains the case. We want to ensure New Yorkers that 9/11's core system have not been impacted. Our infrastructure and emergency operations, they're all in place, and we're going to continue to do that. Life-saving complaints that come through 311 or city agencies are being prioritized. Traffic signals are working and are fully operational, as is the Staten Island Ferry. Our water systems are fully operational, and our summer rising program will continue as scheduled, including bus service. Although we want to tell parents, you may see disruption on the bus tracking app, the systems are still operating. We expect to continue to see cascading effects of the outage throughout the day, but New York City Office of Technology will be doing everything possible to minimize potential service disruptions and restore service to all systems as soon as possible. Our city agencies IT department will be prioritizing this work today to get things back up and operating online based on the priority of those particular systems. We want to make sure New Yorkers are safe and they can rely on the city services they need. And this is a developing situation. We are assured by the coordination that's taking place from all the agencies involved, as well as the entities that are responsible, such as CrowdStrike, to make sure we can get this underhand without a minimum amount of interruptions in our city. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Next, we'll hear from Chief Technology Officer and Commissioner of the Office of Technology and Innovation, Matt Frazier.
So good morning, everyone. So to give everyone a brief detail in terms of what happened and how we responded, at approximately 12:20, between 12:20 and 12:30, we started to see impacts from systems across the city manifesting in different places. And like usual, when you see something like this is one of the reasons why we have New York City Cyber Command and we have a citywide operations center, so we can detect these things as quickly as possible and dispel what's a threat versus what's not a threat. So as we started to see the symptoms manifest, we contacted our partners, both at Microsoft and CrowdStrike, and subsequently we got down to the root of the issue. The thing with technologies like this is, in order to be safe and be able to respond to threats that evolve in a continuous basis, you need tools that are capable of being updated in that way. As a result, a tool like CrowdStrike, which gets updated real time, when they push a patch, if that patch goes wrong, this is a perfect example of how bad that can be. So one patch goes out at about 12 o'clock a.m. Eastern time, and it's pushed between 12 and 1:30 a.m. Eastern time. And in that period of time, we had a number of workstations, a number of computers and servers that were impacted. After notifying CrowdStrike and working with them, by 1:30, they had stopped deploying that patch. And since then, we've been in a state where we haven't seen any additional machines impacted. We're now in a state where we're going through the recovery. Unfortunately, the recovery at this moment is a fairly manual process that requires physical touch to most of the machines. And we have a team of people that are working across the city in real time, trying to get things back up and running as quickly as possible. As the mayor said, most of our critical services, all of our life Safety-related services remain up and running. There's no impact to 911, no impact to 311, no impact to police, fire, or EMS, radio, or dispatch operations. Everything is running as expected. In addition to that, our operational technology networks and our SCADA networks, things that supply our water systems, things that operate our traffic lights, none of those systems are also impacted. Today is a good example of how some of the planning that we've done in advance helps protect the city and ensures continuity of our critical services. And as we've seen across the globe, this is not an issue that's limited just to New York City. We have everyone from the airlines to financial institutions that are experiencing the same challenges. The good news is that despite the challenge that appeared today, our most critical services remain up and running, and we have a pathway to recovery to bring everything aside.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you for joining so many TV stations and radios this morning to keep New Yorkers informed. Next, we'll hear from MTA Chair Jano Lieber to hear about what's going on in the subways, trains, and buses.
So the MTA activated our incident command system and our emergency management procedures in the late morning hours, and we established quickly that there is no impact to subway system service, no impact to the bus system, no impact to commuter rails, and no impact to the paratransit operations. The impacts are limited so far that are customer facing, are limited to one portion of our countdown clocks on the B division, which is the letter trains, are not operating. But as old New Yorkers know, the trains are coming. They're coming on regular schedules, and you can count on it. You just may not have the countdown clock available. Otherwise, the tolls are being collected. Bad news for some people, I know. But every single operating system is functioning. You may not have up-to-date information, just like the countdown clocks are not 100%. You may not have up-to-date information on exactly when commuter trains are arriving, but all of that is coming back online pretty promptly. And as I said, all the customer-facing impacts have already been evaluated and mitigated, and all of our systems are running. I want to thank the mayor and the entire New York City team for their cooperation. I've also been in touch with the governor's team and briefed her on everything that's going on. Bottom line, the airline system may be in disarray, but New York City's public transit system is going full speed. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Jeno. Next, we'll hear from Dr. Mitch Katz from H&H. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Dr. Mitch Katz. I'm the CEO and president of New York City Health and Hospitals, and I'm happy to report that not only are all of our hospitals functional, but all of the hospitals across New York City are functional. Every hospital is required to have a plan and to practice what would happen if computer systems went down, because we deal with life and death and have to make instant decisions about prescribing a medicine, running a test. And so every hospital has to be able to run without computers. And some of us are even old enough to remember when everything ran without computers. So we know how to do it. There is a manual override for a process for when you have to not use the computer, you go to paper. But throughout the city, because most of the hospitals, including ours, use an electronic health record called Epic, which did not go down, overwhelmingly, all of the systems are running just as they should. Patients should keep their appointments. They might experience delays because some of the individual workstations have to be brought up manually, as you've heard. And so not all of them are brought up. So people should have a little bit extra patience with their doctor or nurse, but people should not neglect their care. The hospitals are all running fine and able to do their function. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Katz. We'll take some on-topic questions now.
About the system update and how it caused the problem the city's experiencing now. Was it something in the software update, the patches you were talking about, or was it how it was implemented? Can you just give us a little more detail on how that things went awry there?
Yeah, sure. So the way these technologies work is that there's a control file that gets deployed into the agent that runs on every computer and server. When that control file got deployed, part of the control file was corrupted. So when it went to execute and apply the update, the Windows system itself panicked, and which is what causes the blue screen that you see that says that they commonly refer to as the blue screen of death. So that update that went in, that came as a control file into the agent, is the thing that triggered the symptoms that we're seeing.
That corrupt file was on the CrowdStrike end of things.
That is correct. That is correct. So the way these agents work, because we have malicious actors that work 24/7 around the clock, the new signatures that appear every day, these tools stay connected consistently so that as new updates come, they update so that our systems can be as safe as possible. Now, part of that means that those control files get updated sometimes multiple times a day, on a daily basis, weekly basis, so on and so forth. So as those files come in, it's normal to see that type of update. What's not normal is the code that was corrupted as part of it.
What types, you mentioned some workstations went down. What types of workstations, meaning is this, processing vouchers on an administrative level, for example? I'm not saying that's what happened, but what types of workstations went down? And is there some sort of bifurcation to ensure the critical services didn't go down, or was it just luck?
Yeah, no. So in this case, there's no luck. It's good planning and practice, which kept our emergency services and our lifeline services up. So the way that New York City controls its infrastructure, our most critical services, 911 related, 311 related, we isolate and keep it in a separate environment, and we control what updates get pushed into that segment of the environment to ensure that in a situation like this, when something happens, it doesn't take down our most critical systems.
Automatic updating on those critical services.
There's automatic updating, but it's controlled so that it only happens within certain periods of time. And we have a sandbox where we test those updates to ensure that when they get applied, if it impacts something that's in a test environment, not in a production environment. In the other cases, for the machines that have access out to the internet and the basic workstations that many people interact with, those are updated in more real time because the risks to those machines are much greater than the ones that are in the public safety side of the world.
What kind of workstations for those? What's technical?
Yeah, so what I'd say is that there's going to be a myriad of impact, which we are currently assessing. And those workstations are in places like TLC, DOB. They're just regular computers that are out in most of the agencies.
Just to clarify that complaints as they come in through either 311 or to the agencies are always prioritized. Those high prioritized complaints are being addressed. So even if there was a period of time when the workstation is down or there is a lack of interface because of the outage, we are manually going in and ensuring we have all of those priority complaints and they're being addressed across the city, especially with the first responder agencies.
Does CrowdStrike know how that file got corrupted or the implementation got corrupted, or are they still trying to figure it out?
Yeah, so after we discovered the incident and we started to see the impact, with working with CrowdStrike, they were able to correlate the impacts that not only that we saw, but the global community saw with an update that they pushed, and they found it with timing. They aligned it with timing. Now, what they said was they tested the update in their test environment, and none of these symptoms manifested, but something happened somewhere in between where when they went to test it and they went to deploy it, something changed or something got corrupted, and which is why we see what we see right now. So CrowdStrike has confirmed that the issue is related to their control file that was updated. And they said that which is why they stopped deploying it and they rolled back to the previous version.
Still trying to pinpoint what.
Yeah, I'm sure they're looking in their quality control process, but I would defer to CrowdStrike to have them answer what's going on in their internal process.
Just to be clear, are there any impacts to fire or police services at all?
Yeah, so emergency services, meaning if you dial 911 or you call for support, there are no impacts to calls for support. 911 operations is working, dispatch operations are working, and emergency communication via radio are also working.
As New Yorkers go about their day, is there anything that they can expect to see, any specific disruption?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
As New Yorkers go about their day, are they going to see any specific disruptions?
So as we mentioned, the essential services and life safety related services are not impacted. However, there are other services that are in the city that may be impacted. So if you go in to file for a permit or you go in to request some other service, you go to pay a bill online, like a water bill or a parking ticket, you might find yourself in a position where those services may be offline temporarily. But as I said, we're moving through and we have the pathway to recovery. And we're confident that soon we'll be back to a normal operating state for the services that may feel slightly impacted.
Water bills fine.
Water bills, you can still pay your water bill.
And when we have situations like that, we automatically go to what are the emergency services that impact New Yorkers on an everyday basis. I think Chief Fraser actually explained it properly. When it comes to the FDNY and when it comes to the NYPD, there are some back issues that we're dealing with now that won't have the immediate impact on the day-to-day services. There's some arrest processing issues that's taking place that we're on top of. There's some camera issues that are affecting DOC, DEP, NYPD. The average 99% of them won't be impacted by it, and we're pretty relatively confident that the impact that we will have will be cleared up before it does have an operational impact on, in fact, the everyday public. But we're looking on this, we're working on it now. While we're here meeting, the mayor has a whole team, all the agencies, they're all talking, putting it together. So I'm pretty confident, in fact, that we jumped on top of this. So as the mayor said earlier, I just want to reiterate, and the chief of staff, a series of meetings. So when this came up and we went into mode, this was something that we did, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And it was almost like it was an exercise that we had kind of planned for. It came out impact, and that's why we're going to see minimal disruptions to New York City. And it was the team was working well, Mike.
MTA related, which is why I wanted to get it in. Any sort of update on when the somewhat minor impacts, ETAs and whatnot, will be resolved by MTA? When are your expectations?
Well, it's all related to the same technological issues that the chief technology officer outlined in detail. We're anticipating when CrowdStrike and Microsoft get their resolution, it'll translate through pretty quickly. But in the meantime, New Yorkers, know where to go. Regular bus service, regular subway service, regular commuter rail on schedule. We're keeping to that, and they can count on the service being provided.
So that's it? That's what we've got? What? Where's everyone going? You got more explaining to do. All right, I'll just turn that right off. Well, let's see here if there's anything else we can learn real fast. Let me take a look. So it does sound like they are actively working to get this fixed. I'm not too sure. I'm a little uncomfortable with all of this. This is not a security instant or a cyber attack. The issue has been identified, isolated, and fixed. Microsoft Cloud services were restored after the outage. And shares on these companies are losing ground. Sounds like our railroads maybe having some processing delays. FedEx says they are having substantial disruptions. UPS as well. Amazon Web Services, connectivity issues. And everyone is saying this is a CrowdStrike glitch. Amazon's cloud computing service alerted its customers to some connectivity issues and reboots. AWS services continue to operate normally. Windows instances, Windows Workplace, Apple Stream applications that use CrowdStrike encountered issues earlier today. Biden was briefed, remembering that they have said that he's got COVID right now. Great timing. President Biden has been briefed on the global outages, and the administration is in touch with CrowdStrike and impacted entities, according to White House officials. His team is engaged across the interagency to get sector by sector updates throughout the day and is standing by to provide assistance if needed. So let's see here if we've got any more updates. See if anybody else is going to speak out on this. Looks like there's some type of riot going on in the UK, in Leeds. I'm sure that has nothing to do with this. Cyber pandemic. What the hell is that?
Good morning. Airlines are starting to resume flights, but there are lots of cancellations and delays, according to the monitors in this terminal. According to FlightAware, more than 1,100 flights have been canceled, about 1,700 flights delayed, and that is nationwide. American, United, and Delta Airlines are among the major airlines that got caught up in this massive IT outage.
Thank you,
They issued the ground stoppage very early this morning, citing communications issues. Cybersecurity company CrowdStrike says it was a software update problem and it caused Microsoft Windows to crash and display blue screens, also referred to as the blue screen of death. This also affected booking and check-in. This morning's issues came less than an hour after Microsoft reported it had resolved its cloud services outage Thursday, which affected low-cost carriers. Those airlines, including Frontier, had lifted their stoppages. Speaking with travelers this morning, we met 3 people who have been trying to get out of town since yesterday. Others told us they had no idea there were problems and received no messages from their airlines about flight status.
They said there were some cancellations at the hotel, so we wanted to get here as soon as we could. Looks like ours is on time, but we'll see when we get to the gate, I guess.
We don't know if we're even going to make it to Portland, and it's a weekend thing, so if we don't get out today, we won't make it.
Oh, maybe that's a good thing.
Southwest Airlines reports for normal operations both at O'Hare and Midway, and the major carriers say they are letting travelers make changes, so they are issuing waivers because of what happened early this morning. In Terminal 3 at O'Hare, Judy Wang, WGN News.
Okay, guys.
That's right. We're going to send things over to that NBC special report to get some updates on how this is impacting the entire world.
This is an NBC News special report. Here's Hoda Kotb.
Good morning. Good to see you. You are coming on the air right now with breaking news. A massive global technical outage tied to CrowdStrike, which is a major cybersecurity provider, has knocked critical computer infrastructure offline all across the country and, in fact, all around the world. It's an issue with a software update. It's impacting lots and lots of Microsoft computer systems worldwide, from businesses to emergency services, 911, traffic lights, transit systems, and it's having a major impact on airlines as well. American, Delta, United, they're all keeping their flights grounded. You're looking at some live scenes from the airport. It is chaos again, 6 a.m. on the East Coast, and this is the scene now. They're having difficulty even printing any kind of boarding passes. This, of course, is a developing situation. The full scope of this problem remains to be seen. And Brian, as we get started right here in Studio 1A, we should point out computers at NBC News right here as we're getting on the air. We're trying to do some workarounds here to get on the air, but this is something that's affecting people worldwide.
Yeah, and other newsrooms, our partners over at Sky News, having issues as well. I mean, this is impacting all different types of businesses. When you talk about airlines, you also talk about, just 911 services, in some cases reporting outages as well. And you're even hearing of anecdotes of banks in other countries experiencing that. We don't yet have reporting of banks in the United States being impacted by this, but this appears to be not just in the United States, worldwide and across different types of industries.
This definitely speaks to what I feel like is the fragility of the situation. It's like this is not a cyber attack. This is a computer kind of snafu that happened.
Yeah, and just to kind of walk you through exactly what's going on here. So this appears to be an issue between CrowdStrike and Microsoft. So CrowdStrike, for those that aren't familiar, is a cybersecurity firm that basically provides businesses with a way to foolproof their systems from being hacked. Now, apparently what happened was that CrowdStrike was working on some sort of update. We just heard from the CEO in the last few minutes describing this as not a security incident or cyber attack. So I'll repeat that again. It doesn't appear to be a cyber attack at issue here, but the reason why CrowdStrike is so instrumental to not just businesses here in the United States, but around the world is because any sort of business that hires CrowdStrike to basically foolproof their systems, well, they're going to be incorporating that into their computers. So if they get that, it's being plugged into Microsoft computers. If there's an issue with CrowdStrike, it takes down all of those Microsoft computers that are
As the world churns, you guys. Oh my God. I'm a little nervous that this could lead into something else throughout the day. We're going to watch this a little bit. I'm going to continue to look. And I'll keep the updates coming if there's any changes.
Related to that, the company's saying Mac and Linux computers are not impacted, but again, this is very widespread.
Interesting because I think what happened was a lot of people, this was happening in Australia, Europe, while we were all sleeping. We woke up and we were like, what's going on? But what people are finding is they're getting on their computers or at the bank or at the airline and they're seeing just a blue screen. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, well, the term for this is called the blue screen of death. And I don't know if we have examples that we can show on the screen right now, but we've been seeing it even in our newsrooms this morning. So it's basically this blue screen that has this prompt that says, you know, you're having issues and they're basically trying to figure out a workaround. But that essentially bricks your computer. You are unable to log in. Now, that's scary for any person that's just trying to log into their personal computer, although it's not clear if your personal computer has CrowdStrike, if it doesn't have that plugin or have that cybersecurity layer, you likely won't be affected because of the nature of what we understand this issue to be. But for all these enterprise companies, which is translation for corporate customers that use this protection, well, that's a major issue. If you can't log in, you can't print out the boarding passes to get people on their planes. You can't, as a bank teller, even get fired up to help open up someone's deposit account. This is a major issue. CrowdStrike says that they have an issue. They identified the issue, they isolated it, and there's a fix that has been deployed. How long that fix takes to basically patch over all this, we don't know, as it seems like anecdotes of these issues and outages are still out there.
And when you're thinking about it, like 911, all of these things, hospitals, like time of the essence when it comes to this. But you did bring up the airlines, and a lot of folks, I have a good friend who's on the way to the airport who's texting me saying, what's going on with all these flights? This is the scene at the airport, and we have NBC's Antonia Hilton. She joins us now. I think she is at Newark Airport. Antonia, what's the scene there?
Good morning. Well, passengers are arriving here to Newark to chaos, long lines, and intense frustrations. The kiosks are down, the computers are down, the boards where travelers typically go to find out what's going on with their delays and their cancellations, they're not updating properly. They're showing just a couple cancellations and delays, and passengers tell me that it's not reflective of what the staff tell them is actually happening. So we have tons of people who have been lining up in some cases for hours trying to get more information about their flights. And at times they've even gotten into fights with the staff here because they say this airline behind me here, Spirit, hasn't done enough to keep customers in the loop. They say they haven't received text messages, no updates through the app, that Spirit hasn't even yet posted a statement on their social media accounts like Twitter, the usual platforms that passengers would turn to in a moment like this. And so the emotions have in some cases really spilled over here. And some families have essentially just ditched the line. They're now moving aside, in some cases leaving the airport, convinced they might not get to leave on their flights at all today. What we know nationally right now, according to FlightAware, is that we have more than 500 cancellations and over 700 delays. If things don't start looking up soon, the guess from most of the people here at Newark, at least today, is that that could get worse, guys.
All right, Antonia, thank you. I think if you have your eye on what's going on in Europe, you kind of see what's going to be coming here as the sun rises.
Yeah.
We saw the chaos in airports there. We're seeing it here. We see the situation with banks in Europe, and we're starting to figure out what that will look like here in this country as people wake up.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a quick look over here for a second, guys.
Specific services. I will say, though, most of their ATMs are working, although I did notice there were some that had that familiar blue screen that you've been showing all morning. There were others too that had a white piece of paper that simply said ATM not available at this moment. So that's where we are. Meanwhile, still some lingering minor impacts as it relates to the subway systems. You heard in the press conference earlier that some of the countdown clock at some of the subway lines are down at many locations, not this one here on West 72nd Street. Also, some of the functionality of the MTA apps are down. We know that the city working to troubleshoot those as quickly as possible. But we did, talk to folks. Here's one lady's reaction, emphasize again, no impacts to service as it relates to any of the MTA buses or trains, and the general impact, Cindy, of the, from a public transit standpoint is low. Back to you.
How did this affect you, Tony, in the morning? Because you get in at 4 a.m.?
Yeah, a little bit earlier this morning, but definitely. One of the things we noticed, I wanted to check my email and.
Oh, what's going on, buddy?
Everything was working just fine. So, you hear the connection, Microsoft, checking my Microsoft, everything working fine, but also asking folks out here and the issues they had. So it's been interesting because not everyone's been affected. For us, it's been interesting too, from a weather standpoint. Our system's okay in the weather office, and it's not a major impact for me personally, but it has been interesting to learn how this is impacting everyone else out here, Cindy.
And it was encouraging, though, that we were just listening to Mayor Adams and other city leaders, and how Jana Lieber, the head of the MTA, was saying that the time frames of the buses and the trains not being affected, really just kind of the countdown clocks. It could have been so much worse as far as transit.
That is a really good point. I mean, I don't remember the last time we've been in this position where you would think something so unrelated, right, can have such a wide-reaching impact. But here we are, and you're definitely right.
Okay. Well, guys, that's probably where I'm
could
going to
have
leave
been a
this.
whole lot worse. But as you heard from the mayor, there were some, systems in place to quickly address.
All righty. So this is where I'm going to leave it, you guys. I'm going to poke around and see if there's anything else that comes up. If so, I will do another live. But for now, let's just leave it here and hope they get this all fixed up very quickly, because this could have very serious implications. So with that said, you guys, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. I'll see you guys soon in the next one. Bye.